looking at the Africa threat landscape and its implication on business. Karibu, Joseph. Akija pia mnaweza muongezea makofi ya Mombasa. Karibu, Joseph.
Thank you, MC. Good afternoon. As mentioned, my name is Joseph Mathenge. I am the person standing between you and lunch. I have exactly 20 slides. I have been given 10 minutes. I intend to do it in the 10 minutes. Please stay with me. Great. My conversation today is a simple one and perhaps an intriguing one. What truly is the threat landscape from our perspective, we here in Africa? I'll take exactly 5 seconds to describe myself. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Serianu. I've been doing cybersecurity for the last 22 years. I've had the fortunate experience of doing it in a global market in the US and Europe. I came to Africa thinking I knew it all, and I fell flat on my face. It's a whole new ball game in this place, and I'm loving every second of it. I work for an organization called Serianu. We do cybersecurity. That's our bread and butter. We sleep, eat, breathe cybersecurity. We are better known for an annual report that we put out every year. Research on different topics around cybersecurity. It's available from our website. Absolutely free. Download it. Read it. Easy read. Read 2-3 pages. Write out. If it's in the evening or in an afternoon, not much information there. No, I'm actually just trying to mess with it. But this is absolutely available. You cannot do cybersecurity as an island. So here are some of our partners. An organization called PECB. We have worked very well with the Isaka Kenya chapter. We are the founding members of the Global HoneyNet project, as well as USIU. And then we run a 24/7 cybersecurity command center. I've had multiple people here talk about a SOC and the fact that the way that work can be highly, highly repetitive. And the human element of potentially losing that, I see that on an every single day activity. There is an ad on CNN that opens up by saying that 52% of all the organizations that were doing business back in 2000, Fortune 500, have gone out of business. I thought that was an advertisement. I didn't think it was true, so I looked it up. It's actually fact. Back in 2000, 52% of the companies, Fortune 500 companies, are extinct. Why? They were unable to digitally transform. Here is what customers expect today. Before, if you needed to take a loan, you had to go to the branch, you had to meet with a credit representative, you had to give in your information, you had to go back and wait for a decision, then they would call you back in, and maybe you would get your loan. Here's today's reality, and there are a whole bunch of bankers in here. I want to sit on my table, on my sofa, in my car, click, get a loan within seconds. That's my expectation. Don't make me come into the branch. I hate it. We had the CIO of Stanchart early on. I had really been taken to task about that last step of going in to get an ATM card, and I'm like, these people, oh my God, they want everything easy. The fact is, we are digitally transforming whether we like it or not. Here in Africa, it's even more interesting. Why? We are leapfrogging stages. Growing up, getting a hard line into your house was hell, right? It took forever. It was ridiculous. Right now, everyone has a phone. You can reach anyone across the country, across the region, yet we did not have to lay lines across to everyone. We in Africa are going to leapfrog stages, and because of that, we are likely to go quite fast. So when you're thinking about your digital transformation, when organizations are thinking about the digital transformations and catching up with it, there are a number of things that come front and center. Number one, there is a significant increase in your cost, your capital expenditure, what they refer to as CapEx. It jumps, doubles, triples, significantly more. Yes, the cloud services providers will argue that your OpEx reduces, but when you compare it with what you currently have, it goes up too. You have to hire IT teams who understand these technologies. You have to keep them trained. You have to keep them motivated. So your cost in doing business as a whole utilizing technology, that's improving your efficiency, potentially increases your cost. Number two, your risk profile changes. You remember my earlier slide where you go into the branch and you submit your paperwork for you to be able to get a loan? Well, when you go online, that changes. You have a whole bunch of other connections that are coming into your organization, either from third-party services providers or even from your own internal people. Because of this change in your inherent risk, then your cybersecurity exposures go right up through the roof. You're now worried about remote connections. You're now worried about introduction of rogue software and rogue hardware into your environment. You're now worried about other things that those guys in the C-suite, those guys at the board level don't fully appreciate what all these things talk about, yet they have to pay attention. And then risk of significant losses occur in a very small window. I mentioned we run a security operations center. From the time when we detect a breach, from the time we detect that there are funds been withdrawn from one of our clients to reacting, it's a very small window. And there can be significant losses because of this new vehicle that we have put in place. So cyber risk is front and center on this digital transformation. Cyber risk is an area that we here in Africa are playing with something that's significantly different than what's coming from the other side of the world. Now let's look at cybercrime and how it has changed. There has been quite a bit of evolution. The loss of money becomes number one, front and center. The biggest thing that you're worried about, of course, is loss of money. But within that question, you now have a regulatory, CBK, CAK, somebody else, who is saying you have to report about any cybersecurity events within 2 hours. Well, that's easy when it's a Monday morning. But when it's Saturday night, the day before Christmas, Christmas Day, how do you report that within 2 hours? You don't even know it has happened. The techniques which these attackers are using change literally on a daily basis. They have newer, more improved, more interesting ways to hit you. Financial institutions in this area, not just financial institutions, all of you have had conversations about keystroke loggers. These are those fine malwares that are introduced into your environment with the single intent of stealing credentials. Here's the funky thing about what's happening in Kenya. Yes, you have your antivirus solution that's there, but it has no clue about a keystroke logger that's been written in Swahili. It doesn't know what that is. It doesn't have the signature for it. Yes, it may recognize its heuristic behaviors, but the risk there goes up. And then the targets are changing. The way that they can hit you and how fast they can hit you keeps changing on a daily basis. When we look at some of our trends, malware keeps going from worse to worse. 2018, we encountered malware such as Emotet, targeted at hitting organizations and changing the banking trojans that were known out there. In one of our reports that we did, we also recognized the issue around cybersecurity skill sets. Reality, we are in Africa. Reality, our skill set is slightly behind. Reality, we need to train our people to get better. It doesn't change the fact that we are now playing in a global village, and indeed, we have a significant exposure. Now it's impossible to do your business as a single entity. You need third-party service providers to do one thing or another, from your applications that you're owning to running parts of your IT system to hosting your servers. You need third-party services providers. You trust them, but you don't. I mean, how could you? They don't have the same motivation as you do. Yet, absolutely, they have to be front and center in what they're delivering to you. It's interesting to note that high unemployment seems to be a driver, particularly for technology experts. In the last 1 or 2 years, we have seen the economy go up and down, impact of COVID, of the pandemic period. That seems to be an interesting driver as far as technology experts, technology professionals utilizing their skill set for illegal activities. And then finally, I want to go straight to the issue of fake news. I hope all of you look very carefully at those messages that come to you that says forwarded. Anything that says forwarded that comes to you, the first thing that should enter your head is fake news. Absolutely, no question. Because nowadays, it's so hard to distinguish between what's good and what's not good. When you get to the point where we are getting the national press sending out messages saying that tomorrow is not our Eid al-Fitr holiday, yet it had spread and we were all ready for the holiday. You know? It's moving so fast, you really have to pay attention. This is our reality right here in Africa. Financial sector, the areas that are being targeted, I don't have to really beat the dead horse on this one, going after ATMs and mobile banking infrastructure, your payment system, debit and credit cards. We already talked about third-party services providers. Other non-financial sector are experiencing these issues as well. Hackers, players targeting their payment systems in the manufacturing area, in the insurance area, in healthcare. They are now paying more and more attention because somebody changed an account number within their financial payment system and somewhere did not get paid. They're now going after document management systems in terms of ransomware. One of the biggest threats in 2020 has been ransomware. Come in one day, all your data is encrypted, and you have a nice little note that's telling you to go and pay some money in bitcoins. How many here know where to get bitcoins? And your data has been held ransom. And the list goes on and on. The face of the cyber criminal has changed. Do you remember when DCI put out such a picture talking about these are wanted people? This was interesting. And I do a number of these presentations to different senior managers as well as board members, and I keep asking them, if you see one of your employees on this list, what do you do? How many here say fire them? Ah, you saw it. It's a trick question. How many here say don't fire them? I can see one hand. Okay, those who said you don't fire them, supposing they actually perpetuate fraud in your organization, supposing they actually steal from you, those who said don't fire them, please put up your hand again. Of course, DCI can put out this information, but you as an employer cannot necessarily act on it because if DCI were wrong, you have a lawsuit on your hand. But that's besides the point. What I'm trying to really emphasize here is that they're no longer necessarily male, they're no longer necessarily techie. The risk is front and center, it's within your organization. Let's spend 2 or 3 slides talking about the cost of cybercrime. We're going back to 2016. Cost of cybercrime globally was put at about $1 billion. That breakdown of cost of cybercrime with the direct cost, money out of your account for that cost, about $431 million. The other indirect cost, $647 million. Seems to be upside down, doesn't it? How many say that just let it be? I'm okay losing the $431 million. Cost of cybercrime across in 2018, that number jumps up. Kenya specific to $295 million. To translate into Kenya shillings, that's $29.5 billion. To translate that further, that's Thika Road. We keep moving. 2017, $3.5 billion globally. 2018, $4 billion plus. These numbers keep going up. I have a slide missing there that I wanted to spend some time on, but that's okay. I'll probably capture my 10-minute target. So the cyber risk detection process has changed. How you evaluate cyber risk absolutely is no longer the same. Conducting a vulnerability assessment penetration test is no longer enough. Simply consuming the annual audit report is no longer enough. You now have to understand what are your risk exposures. What are those breach scenarios, threat scenarios? What are those things that indicate to you that something's off? Once again, I'll refer to what the CIO of Stanchart talked about, looking at certain behavior of your account transaction and pinpointing that that's an issue. For example, you are seen withdrawing 40,000 shillings 3 times on a Saturday morning in Mtwapa. Is that okay or not okay? I don't know. Comedian once said that if you're ever on an ATM withdrawing $300 in the middle of the night, something's not good. He was making a joke about it, but if you think about it, yeah, something is off. Either someone's sick, You're probably doing something you should not be doing. So taking that information and using it to identify that something's not correct. For you to have those threat scenarios, for you to have those threat indicators, you have to understand what are your data sources, both for the information as well as for the risk scenarios that are coming in. You need to correlate this data. It's a lot of information that's coming at you. You need to be able to aggregate the things that tell you the same story. And then now you need to do your threat analysis to really bring it together. Really be able to identify and distinguish between an event, Joseph Mathenge logged in, and an incident, Joseph Mathenge's ID was used to log in while he's physically located here at the offices and also from South Africa. Bringing this data together will now really inform you in terms of what's my incident response, what should I do, how should I be able to react to it, and then finally be able to report on it. Threats are dynamic. An annual VAPT, people, is not enough. In understanding your threats, that won't cut it. Threats are dynamic. They are changing literally on a daily basis. How you evaluate and understand that has to move just as fast. Finally, there's this big question about cost and return on your security investment. Go in there and fight for your budget to buy for something around cybersecurity. And trying to explain that to the board that you're buying a new antivirus solution, a new data loss prevention solution, is just not interesting to them. So you need to be able to really take them through what we are looking out of it. So here's a way that you have to measure and calculate around it. Number one, how prepared are you? What's your risk profile? What's your inherent risk? What's coming on a consistent basis? What are you doing to reduce that risk from a visibility perspective? How many controls do you have? Are they effective? The only safe computer, ladies and gentlemen, is the one that you buy and bury. Buy a brand new, beautiful Mac machine, HP, go home, dig a hole, put it in the hole, cover it up. That computer is safe. It's useless too, isn't it? If it means then there's no 100% safety, you have to improve your detection capability. You have to detect what's coming at you. And then finally, this is the numbers, the stories that those guys who signed the check want to understand. What's the dollar value of what you're protecting? If the asset is worth 100 shillings, why would I spend 10,000 shillings to protect it? You need to be able to speak that story to let them know. Did I make my 10 minutes? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy your lunch.